Welcome to the Pop-Up Research Station, where we explore temporary public art, creative placemaking, and cultural urban planning by having conversations with the artists and arts organizers who make it happen. We offer valuable insights and solutions for programming by presenting case studies from real-time projects that benefit the arts community. Our cafes serve as a data collection session, allowing for the review and application of findings in future projects, ultimately leading to improved outcomes. Thank you for joining us.
And I'm
Only
making a
recognize
throne.
one person on that list. Was it Sue?
Yeah, Sue Perlgut. She was my fifth grade teacher.
Oh,
I'm making a throne. Here's my throne. Can you see my throne?
Oh my goodness.
Well, enjoy.
That's what it's all about.
Yes, it is.
yeah, that other throne, someone adopted the one you did in Long Beach.
Yes, that was water. And this one is earth, air, fire, and water.
Wow.
Anyway, Alpha, I'm in that go mode, girl, trying to get that throne done and stuff, but it's out of absolute respect for you, my sister, that I popped on today.
Yeah, I was just coming from a Arts Alliance Community Insight session for South Suburbs. So I needed to represent and be at our project. It ended at 12:30, and I drove as fast as I could to get back here. Not waste everybody's time, but it's always important to be at the table and to toot our horns on our projects that we're doing.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, someone from the Tall Grass Art Center was in my breakout session, and they were talking about a labyrinth they had built with native plants, as part of programming, and how people were so upset about the natives growing wild, and it doesn't fit the specifications of what the village means in, plants that they want to see grown, those. All right, and then so I brought up, and then there was a whole conversation about labyrinth and what it is, and so I brought up that we had did the mandala and how there was all this, it was new to people, this resistance, it was a cult, it was just all these different words that came out of that, but then also the community engagement that we did that was so positive. So anyway, I brought that up in the session that I'll continue the conversation with. But that's what I was doing right now, and then rushing in from that South Suburbs. You know what the drive looks like, Carol. And, trying to rush back, because I don't like wasting anyone's time. But we do need to do a report card on activities that we've been doing so far in the village, and then we have a meeting on the 20th of next Monday, actually, to kind of report back their
report back to the board.
There's a liaison from the board of trustees that'll be at that meeting. Marilyn was at the meeting. I was just at, and she just let me know that I knew that I was going to do a report card. We have a lot of data that we collected. They want to know how much was spent, all this kind of other reporting mandatory stuff. But and I'll be putting everyone's report together and insights for how your part of the project is going and how it went. So if I think I got most of your reports, Carol.
Oh, on as part of these pop-up meetings?
Yeah, as part of the Hazel Crest project we were working on. Right. But I can still go back and glean information from all of the pop-up research station, read and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, that's great. I want my mouth and brain want to say if there's anything you need, but I swear I really want to jump in, stay enveloped in my project, like I did when I came to Hazel Crest. So, is there anything that you need from me today?
No.
Well, I have to tell you though, just on a personal note, man, I miss you. I do. Crazy. I'll see you in
Well,
April.
yeah, your energy is infectious.
Well, I will look forward to being there in April. And my friend Marcy just arrived from Florida, and the two of us are going up to Ithaca together. And I even haven't had a chance to talk with her about it, but in her backyard down there in Delray Beach, there's a tree that has a horizontal branch. Right now, it has a bird feeder on it, but it looks like the exact thing that I want to build the wind chimes on.
Mhm.
I keep envisioning it, and
Well, good.
I'll send you a picture. My friend Esmeralda up in Nevada City, she bought a house that had wind chimes there in the trees. The guy was a
Hmm.
welder, and you know what he made it out of? I have to show you this picture. He made it out of two empty water heaters.
You have the picture of it?
Yeah, I do. When they come together, man, the sound, and they only hang about 6 inches from the ground. And so you can go there and bang them together, and it's just the most amazing
Is that
sound.
online, Carol?
I don't think so. It's just in her
Uh,
backyard that the guy who used to live there made it. He was a metal artist. And she's like, "Oh, this is very cool. You should see it." And so she sent me a picture, and it's nuts. It's so interesting. You don't have to have some fancy nothing for those sounds. Here it is. Oh my God, this is so amazing. Can you see it here? I'll send it to you. Two empty water heaters. So they're big metal columns that hang from a tree. And when the wind blows, it's just like this outrageous sound, which she also sent me. So I'll send that separate. I'll send that to you. They're just about 5 inches from the ground. That's her granddaughter playing with them because you can pull them together and have them bang against each other in a rhythm and all this stuff. And I
yeah, it
mean,
shows scale also of how
yeah,
big they are.
yeah, it's pretty awesome. I just thought, I'll text it to you, Alpha. I thought, my God, you don't have to have a whole lot of something. You know what I mean? Alpha, yeah. So,
Right. You don't have to have this expensive,
right?
all this
Re-
other stuff that everybody's, trying to claim. And then rising price of steel and aluminum and metal and,
that's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, it really is. See,
Bill, what's your timeline today? I can't hear you. You're on mute. Let me unmute you.
Just a
What's
second.
your,
Hi, Bill.
Hey, how are you, sweetheart?
I'm good. Yourself?
Doing just busy today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Me
Can
too.
you hear?
he's back on mute again. No,
No.
you're unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm doing well, Carol, and I'm just so excited about. I mean, I wish I had the opportunity of, you're traveling and visiting different places, which is very nice. And
But I
very,
do remember you said that you told me twice you want to come here, so I'm always looking for the
yeah, well,
opportunity.
yeah, I'm going to have to make plans for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Next year,
Yeah,
by the grace of the goddess, yeah?
yes.
So don't let me interrupt your check-in with Alpha.
Yeah, what I'm doing now,
Because he's gonna jump off in a few to go to his classroom.
Me too.
yeah, I've got about maybe 125 bulbs that I'll be bringing over to Hazel Crest, working with Maryland on this. Uh, we're doing a succession project with spring, summer, fall, winter. So we're in the planning stages. So we're starting out with the bulbs, a variety of tulips as well as wonderful daffodils.
Yeah, Marilyn said, she was there at this Cook County, community insight session, and she was talking about the work that you all are doing with natives. And right now, the plants that you left out there, October 4th, they're in the ground. And, what's his name? Carl, him and Craig, his new assistant, they put the mums in the ground.
Yeah, that's great.
You know,
I had just a large amount of annuals, so I think they'll be gone by mid-November.
Yeah, they will
Yeah.
put all their
That's
seeds
that's
out.
about it.
right. Right. So you heard me say that I'm going to put a report card together because we're midway with this project. One of the Camille, one of the commissioners is going to be at the meeting on the 20th is when the Hazel Crest Open Lands Beautification Open Land Committee meets at 6:30. I'll have the location, but she's asking for a meeting and to give a report on what the expenditures were for the 10th, 4th Hazel Crest Oaks and Folks Gala. That was something I was going to prepare for Dante anyway. And I'll try to have it so that Maryland has it by this weekend. And it's just consolidating all of the data so far, with feedback from folks that came to each of the events. We do have a cost estimate already of actual expenditures, not an estimate of what we spent, but what we really spent, because all those line items were already accounted for before we even began the project. So I'll give that same report I gave to you, and where I had advanced funds, and then you gave me what was allocated for community engagement. That's the number I'm going to give them. I don't really think I need to give them a breakdown of what we spent on, well, I can on food and then all of the other things. I'll just give them a breakdown of the expenditures and what was
Okay.
spent on. The same thing I gave you, I'll just forward it to them as part of the report, and then consolidate all of the, the questions that were asked under pop-up research, station, and that would be just the feedback, and then the number of attendees. Also report back on, outreach and the numbers that it kind of reached on their social media feeds.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Did I hear that? Is Carl here as well, or?
I didn't see, he's not on this meeting.
Okay.
Usually he has to, go to the food pantry because him and his wife run the food pantry at the United Methodist Church.
Oh,
That's
Carl.
across the way.
Yeah.
And um, what's it? Christine is at a putting together, like she's on a phone bank because there's a lot of art and advocacy work that needs to be done with the protests that are happening around Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
So
Sure.
I saw her on Saturday. We went out to the Bourbonnais Woods as part of her workshop that she did with community engagement. The Forest Preserve have a group of youth that are called ambassadors, and they're from that neighborhood out there. And when I say that neighborhood is one of the largest African American, developments that was built by the city of Chicago for veterans that were coming back from the military. And at one point it was like a donut out there because it's by the Calumet River, but the donut meaning the housing, it's project housing, but it's mixed housing. So you got a lot of project housing out there. And then across the way, you have a lot of houses that were bought out there. And a well taken care, groomed community on one side of the road, and the other side you have the housing. But within that, you have the Calumet River, which is a base for, it's a loading dock, a boat launch pad out there, and that's where Christine's project is. They just renovated that whole area, and it's just beautiful. But then I read the history of that area, and then the growth of that area and what it means to, migration and, legacy of military families and families that moved out there, from Bronzeville and other areas when we were so crowded in the city. And I got a chance to mention those youth ambassadors and Christine's project, which is part of the Forest Preserve, while in this meeting with Cook County, and using it as an example of how to recruit youth to be more engaged in these projects. Because that's, we know that with our project with Hazel Crest, school district 152 and a half, they have a liaison that's part from the school district and that's on the board of trustees as a liaison. And she's come to both of our programs. I have pictures of her talking with Carol. She came to the Mandela Bill, and also she came to the October 4th event and was there. And she raised the question about why they were not more youth involved out there, you know what I mean, on that day. And Maryland feels like, well, the gala really wasn't advertised as a kid kind of thing, where children would be out there, even though we had a few, that came with their parents. We could do a count on one hand, the number of children. And then we had the youth that was part of the Sense of Soul Music School, that were performing, and their families in terms of the younger population. But Carol, we had about 60 people, that came to the gala.
That's so awesome.
It's a good number, and
sure
we applaud
is.
that number. We'll take that number.
Yes.
Because we were really trying to get, they were going like, okay, we got to get more than 10 people out here. And we didn't know until day of the actual count. We had 20 from the art community that we had RSVP'd, and trustees, we had a count, and then the others were from, people that came from the village and other parts of the south suburbs that came to visit us on the for the dedication. Yeah, so like the work we're doing, we didn't get that grant for Cook County, but all of this networking and still, I did, since Laverne Murphy, the assistant village manager, wasn't present, nor her consultant, Summer Coleman. I did talk and share the information.
Awesome. Oh, I'm thinking of something.
And I did share the information with the the Arts Alliance in our breakout session, about the work that they're doing to improve that whole economic corridor, and how, like we're in nature, yes, and they're over here in the commercial district. And I know that part of our chore and our challenge is this whole thing about them and us, when it should be all part of what the village is doing to support the arts, and not, what they're doing over there versus what we're doing over here. We're all making an impact in the community that is supporting the arts, I think. But because we're outside consultants coming into a community, we have to navigate. We have to navigate those social, I don't know, those cliques and what's going on, where both parties want to work with us. But I know, Bill, that our contract and dedication is to Art in the Woods, working with open lands. But I think it's a way to navigate both, because they're really interested in getting some of the work that we're doing over there.
Well, what do you think they mean when they say that?
What do you mean? Say what part?
Because the work that you're doing is pretty much engaging with the land. So if you're talking about a commercial area in the city, what do you think they're meaning when they say they want to get some of the work when they don't have the land, or they want us to deal with their own landscape in the same kind of way, or in a, what is it that you.
I just think that cross pollination of programming,
I see.
you know what I mean, is that the main objective, not
Mhm.
in how that intersects with they're doing art in the garden because they got a large grant that allowed them to build their native garden there. And so they just gave an event that said art in the garden. And only like one room of the art center was open where they had the art, you know, the small art exhibit, you know, that was more emerging kind of grassroots artists from Hazel Crest that, you know, answered the call for vendor. I'm not
I
a
see.
vendor, so I'm not trying to answer nothing like that, but I did go and support the afternoon and, you know, just to kind of be proactive about showing up, you know, in these spaces and looking
Mhm.
at it holistically and not as a division.
Mm.
You know, Open
That's
Lands has been
good.
doing this work for 15 years. Maryland and Carl's probably been out there longer than that, but Maryland's been out there 15 years. They're finally investing into Open Land with us as our project being there in Art in the Woods, right?
Mm.
So there's a lot of tiers of politics, and they um, are usually paying out of pocket for stuff, and they might have a budget set aside, but they never know what the budget is set aside because they've never written. When we first started investigating this project, and we doing the research in this project, I could find no reports whatsoever on open land submitted by the chair. And
Mm.
I mentioned it to her November 1st when we went out there, and she said, well, I haven't written any. And I'm like, how does that work where you haven't written any reports regarding your project? But she says that she hasn't submitted a report because that's not how they work. They just work and they tell the village, this is what I need. You know, can you reimburse me? I spent this. And that's how they've been operating, and not with a
Interesting.
fiscal budget for this is the things that we need to fund the different events that we're doing. And this is the money we need for, you know, a tree planting or social. They didn't have any put a budget together for that. And this is with Maryland. And again, I left Maryland at the out at Matson at the Arts Alliance. I left her at the table talking and networking, and or she would be on the meeting to kind of talk about that. But
Yeah.
even there, she was saying, you know, I we're just telling them what we need, right? And then so the one of the trustees is saying like, well, we want to see your report of how much you spent. And she says, well, Alpha, I don't even know anything about that because we as the consultants have to
Mm.
put that report to them on our expenditure. So, you know, Bill, if you had, you know, we have our hours that we can, you know, look at. And Carolyn, we already have your billing and what we paid out that I can answer to. You know, we already have 2 sculptures installed, and everyone stayed within budget for that because that's all it was going to get. There was no cream on top. There was no
Right.
contingency funding. It was just
Not
what you
even
said.
foamy milk.
But I gave everybody the opportunity to tell me what they want and how much it's going to cost, and I had to work with what everyone gave me. And so what I did bring up when we were at the table was quite a few things, but the one thing I did bring up was you know, how it's important because we're dealing with a 2-tier system out there in terms of the types of art in their collection. And the last meeting we had last week, I was hit with I'm sure he didn't mean anything, but I think he did when he said we already have an art program going on, and we really didn't. I said, well, that village already sought consultants. We're the consultants and how to implement your art programming. And before you start bringing other people on board that come up to you and say, hey, you know, I crochet trees or I do this and I do that. I think that we're talking about putting a process in place for how to do the acquisition of, you know, like the art and, you know, and then I was reminded that they already had an art program before we came. So this is the kind of stuff we're trying to navigate. I know you painted, you know, fire hydrants. I know you painted benches. I know you're out there cutting wood and making little seating elements. But and so maybe that would be your tier 1 type programming that you're doing with arts in school. And the tier 2 is the acquisition of actual public art sculpture.
Mm.
You know, so that we don't get into that And then
Yeah,
how,
yeah. I
and so
agree.
I know I talked about curatorial process and I just had that pushback for that moment. And I knew that taking on this contract, we were going to have those kinds of problems. So I mentioned that today during this community insight, and that we are place makers coming into a community and bringing an outside point of view, into art programming. We're the experts in the field that they've contracted and they're depending on us for our guidance. But what happens with this resistance, this quiet resistance that's taking place? Or is it jealousy, or is it, can't delve into that, but we know that those little emotional things when people are place keepers, but we still need to kind of stroke the egos or whatever of folks that are
Uh-oh, kiss the ring.
I kiss a nobody's ring, okay? Because they can be replaced. They have a new director of public works. There's other things in place. Everybody wanted to respect the work that the placekeeper has been putting into making projects happen. But I think those projects can exist and that help can exist without that main person thinking they're the overarching. It won't happen if I don't,
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah. And I
And
wanted to
so
say that the overall results of our project is beautiful. Carol, you would have to see it, just be there to see the placement, the beauty of the placement of the work that Peter and uh, Christine delivered. And it's just a wonderful transformation.
That is so, I'm
Yeah,
so,
we're just starting out. And I think,
yes, I'm so proud to be a part of it.
yes.
They inspire me. I hope it's that kind of circle that we artists are able to hold together where we inspire each other as we are inspired by the land.
And I think the public will be behind us. I think once they find, able to experience the beauty and enjoy uh, new work in a preserved area, uh, I think it's going to be really wonderful for them to experience.
Well, you know that I think I had shared with you guys every time I go somewhere to do a project, the first thing is, who are you and what are you doing, here? And then it's like, hmm, what's that? And then it's like, can I do some? And then it's like, look what I did. I mean, it's just like everywhere you go, the first thing is what you and Alpha are talking about. And I know from years of experience, I don't think Hazel Crest is any different, that they are definitely going to get on board when they see the power and the positivity of our work together. Just we just have to manage our way through this first, who are you kind of thing.
Yeah,
or the whole thing
but
of if the whole thing of um like all the people show up, all the trustees that never been out there before show up,
Right.
and I'm looking at that as a positive in this
Yeah.
process. And
Yeah.
then but there's this undercurrent of they wasn't out here before, and we were doing all this work and we couldn't get them to come to anything. And it's like it's a different level of programming that we're and then a different level of investment that they're having in the community. So I don't know.
I
Um,
think, Alpha, I think it's going to be just fine. I've been using the quote of Octavia Butler, everything you touch, you change. Everything you change changes you. The only thing we can depend on is change. And I mean, people got to get behind that. Change is part of life. And quite often, if you are part of it, it becomes positive change.
yeah, that is so beautiful.
It's just true. It's true.
I think
People,
Bill can do those testimonies too because it took a minute for him to get people engaged with the work he was doing on Dorchester there. Bill, you want to talk about your work in transitioning Dorchester before getting that project up the street?
Yeah, it was. I think I battled with the idea of beautification on my block because at the point I didn't have volunteers or strong supporters. So basically, I was, doing it. Jim and I were doing it ourselves, and then there were a few people on board, but we put out the hard work and dedication, and it speaks for itself. And I think
It does.
it's a lesson to be learned. That we can, like maintain. We can uh, display or change, transform a neighborhood. And so all of those things sort of came together for us. And then which brought me over to Stony Island, which is only 2 blocks from the Presidential Center.
But not only that, but in top of that, not saying not only that, but those little pathways in community development led you to where we are in Hazel Crest and some of the other projects that you're doing because people paid attention. Mr.
Mm.
Sawyer was paying attention to
Yeah.
the work that Bill was doing because he owned a condo around the street, and he has the testimony of how the community changed in 5, 6 years that Bill has been out here doing the work. And now how Metra invested into what along that line and along that stop, that's a main stop for people that are coming into the city to go to the presidential library. That's one of the commuting spots that people get off. And now it's beautiful. Now you have
Mhm.
murals, and otherwise it was a filthy viaduct. When you go under there, it was just
Mm.
mud. It's usually what viaducts look like, a grind. And on both ends of that, you have these beautiful, mosaic and painted, murals. And as you leave and you walk down the street, you're going to walk past the Environmental Nature Center, and then across from that is the Presidential Library. So, and so now the Metro line is out in Hazel Crest at that stop, and they invested $100,000 into, improvement projects, so, we can pitch, something out there if we want to get beyond what we're doing in, Hazel Crest. But that stop connects with this corridor of community economic development that's happening in Hazel Crest. And I did mention that during the meeting, because I try to stay abreast on top of stuff
Yeah,
and
yeah,
be
yeah.
and spewing some knowledge at the table about
I
what we're
hear you.
doing.
But I wanted to say we can transform underserved communities, and we can have a beautiful relationship with nature, with in spite of neglect and lack of care.
Yeah. The one thing is that my experience is we got to have the community involvement. Otherwise, it gets desecrated. But if we
Yeah,
have community involvement, it becomes theirs.
And that's what I meant by like place keepers. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't want to agitate because people have to have a ownership of these projects because we're here for that time as consultants,
Mhm.
coming in and helping them shape their plan. So on the agenda, I would like to on for Monday's meeting, I want to definitely make sure that we have examples of how to how to create a curatorial panel. How do
Mm.
some of the commissioners get a say in the next work that comes out there? So to introduce, a couple of different models of how artists can submit their portfolios, for their project to be funded instead of, um, I can quote and unquote Maryland, hag ragtag type project going up haphazardly plays, because someone has a chainsaw and just wants to go to work, on those trees and cutting out little chairs and stumps, and it just can get out of hand. And I did mention, Carol, how when you were working with Prince George County as a consultant and project manager out there. And they got that wood cutting artist that did, you know, wood chainsaw art that took over. Everybody just wanted him in the park, what is it, national parks to create these sculptures. And what happened to the other artists that were doing other types of art form?
And he was from West Virginia. Yep, 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 yep. I
You know,
have
and
to
so
go. I told someone
talk to you
at
later.
3 o'clock.
All right, see you later.
All right. I'm so
Enjoy.
happy to see you
And
both
so,
today.
so happy to see you, Carol.
All right. I'll see you next week. Oh, I'll be in Ithaca. You
Well,
might
take
miss.
lots of pictures, share.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
All right.
How do I get off of here now?
Just turn it off. Just leave us. There she
Well,
goes. Yeah. So I'm
I'll-
gonna text Marilyn to see where she is, if she's able to log on.
can you
And you know,
can you hear me?
yes, I can.
Yeah. You know, Alpha, I think we're on track, and I think we're doing wonderful things, and you know, with practicality and creativity. So I mean, we just have to sort of ignore those ruffles that, you know, that appears, but I think we're doing a great job.
Yeah, I think so too. That's why I put a lot of extra hours into making sure our paperwork looks good, you know, like all of the, you know, consulting stuff that is part of my um um you go like during the event, you go, Alpha, you need to sit down somewhere. We need to tell you to sit. I said, when you're a host, you don't sit down. That was, we were hosting that between Marilyn and myself. No, we didn't sit down. We were walking around troubleshooting and doing all the things that we needed to do to make it successful. I couldn't sit down.
Right. And it reminds me so much of, you know, what I do at Murphy Hill Gallery. I was all over the place to make sure that things were timed well and preparations were made. Yeah, it's a lot of,
You
you
were
know,
talking about it's 30,000 square feet of space in that Murphy Hill Gallery that you had to walk from one area, and then you had the common area, then you had the installation area, and then you had, I don't know, you guys set up that kind of like a book, like a gift store area, and then in the back where the resident artist is. That's a lot of space to have to forget something in one part of it and have to go all the way back over 30,000 square feet of walking and curating that space, and then bringing the nature, the way you brought the nature kinds of plants, you know, to, you know, as installation inside space. And this was a pop-up that you all did for what, 5 years? Murphy
yeah.
Hill Gallery.
And I think that we're doing is taking our creativity and focusing on Hazel Crest in many ways. We got to do what we got to do. And I really, I mean, your work, you know, your dedication is all over the place, Alpha, when it comes to the Hazel Crest Open Lands project. I mean, you've done extremely well.
Well, and thank you, Bill. I know that we have to, like when I was talking about today, in the breakout session I was in today, that I was impressing upon them when they talked about how we're doing with, you know, like engaging and being in a community. And I'm like, we just have a good fortune that Hazel Crest has embraced the arts and look at the arts as an economic engine. And I did talk about, the millions of dollars that they're putting into these art activations that they're doing on that corridor, and other, like even a museum is going to come in. And I met that person that's in charge of that. Right now it's a mobile museum, but they're going to be in that fire department across the way from the art center. They're building that performing arts center that's coming in, music schools coming in on that corridor. And then they showed me some other things on that map that they are looking at as investments, you know. And I mean, because I'm studying, and I told them that the best part that I bring to a project is the pop-up research station, the pop-up research station, and the work that we do, not only on site, but the work we do when we're breaking down these projects and we're talking about these projects and we're examining, the projects in dialogue and conversation.
Yeah, you provide a unique resource, and you know, yeah, it's just well deserved.
Yeah, so, yeah, I've been up, that thing was at 9, so I had to drive way out to Matson and get there by 9 o'clock. So my day started really early at 6. But I was gonna go through, if you have a meeting, there's Marilyn, she can talk more about the conversations that we're having on community insight. What time do you have to leave for your class
In,
today,
a,
Bill?
in about 15 minutes, but you
Okay,
said
great.
Marilyn is here?
Yeah, Marilyn's here.
Hello, Marilyn. Did you get my info? I don't think you've got my information.
Information in regards to what?
I have bulbs, and I probably have
Oh,
125. So
wow.
I'm thinking about coming out there hopefully on Friday. If it depends on your schedule. Where we
Okay.
Is it possible that some kind of preparation can be done to make it easier on us? But see, I think Anna Maria was saying that we have to wait till the weather is cool before planting.
Well, I know that she said it was a little warm. However, uh, I'm I have to look at my schedule for Friday. I don't think it's the best, but I will say this that we were out there Saturday and Carl had taken that area and had sprayed it down with his weed killer, which was or which is what is that everybody uses?
Roundup.
Roundup. But she said uh Anna Marie said that she had something else.
Yeah, she gave it to me, uh, and I have it. So, but I wouldn't want to double do it.
I would not either, and I don't know what made Carl go ahead and do it, but he did. And I think I mentioned to him that we were talking about doing that area, uh, planting something there with the bulbs. So he put Roundup down. Anna Marie sounded as if her solution was better or would be better, and which I would think it probably would be because that area that Carl did, it has a great tendency to weed up anyway. But I think what we still can do is I'd like to have that area prepped too. So I would ask Carl if he could bring out I think it's called the backhoe, and kind of dig that up for us.
Yeah, that'll make it easier. Uh,
Yeah, that
but
would, because no, I
well,
don't
we
see
won't.
myself.
I mean, when the time is right for you, I will be there. I just let me know ahead of time. Usually, uh, Friday, Fridays, Saturdays, and are good. I can do a Thursday, but it just depends on your schedule.
Well, this is going to be a tight week for me, as well as next week. So that's why I'm looking at. I know if the weather is right for Saturday,
And
I
I think rain is in the forecast for Saturday.
is it all of Saturday
Yeah,
or
yeah, they were saying that everything's going to be picture perfect until Saturday.
then let me look at my Friday. I believe I have something scheduled Friday morning. So let me have you to hold on for a moment. Hold on. And excuse me, I know I'm snorting and my nose is ready to run.
Yeah. But I'm excited. It's going to be the first. That'll be our spring development, and then we'll come in on like in spring and get ready for the uh, late spring, early summer planting.
Right.
Yeah.
Um,
So we'll try to work in a sequence. You know.
right. Right. Okay. I see what you're saying. As a matter of fact, speaking about 175 bulbs, Carl was wanting to get about 200 bulbs from Anna Marie.
Yeah. Has he heard from her or?
I I don't know. I don't know. But he called me today and mentioned that he wanted to have that discussion with Dante so that he could pay for those bulbs. Now let me see. I think Friday at this point looks like it's available if we still want to do Friday, but it would have to be after probably about 1 o'clock. I have an eye doc appointment scheduled at 12.
That can work with me.
Okay.
Him and I will be there um, at 1 on Friday.
On
And
Friday.
I just want to make sure, uh, reviewing the location, and then I'll still be in touch with Anna Marie as well to know. I think maybe she's gathering the resources that she can offer us.
Okay. I want to say 1:30 versus 12 versus 1 o'clock. What I want to do too is make sure Carl can have that area kind of dug up. So we're talking about planting some bulbs on Friday. Am I correct?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Okay. That'll be good. Um, I want to say 2 o'clock. That'll probably give me some clearance with that appointment I'll have.
2 o'clock is good. I'll just
Okay, and I'll tell Carl, I'll see what I'll confirm with you that he will be able to go out there and dig up that area.
Okay, great.
Okay, and that's good because I didn't get a chance to talk with you last week, and I had wondered, had meant to get with you. I didn't want to call yesterday. It was rather late
Yeah,
that
I
evening.
to do that as well. But we have the bulbs, and I'm excited, and
Oh,
so
good.
that'll be
Oh, good.
our first step. Just
Okay, that will be great. I will let him know ASAP. And Alpha, I'm going to still see you Monday at the meeting.
Bill, are you going to be able to
yeah,
attend the meeting? Or do you have a class?
see. Yeah, I can make. I don't. Oh gosh, It depends on. Yeah, maybe I'll talk to my assistant. Maybe he can uh, handle the students while I.
Who, Lloyd?
Yeah, Lloyd probably could. Yeah, because I want to be there. And so what we're doing is that's the same meeting that Alice was at.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then that's good. I'll do my best to make it.
That would be good
So
because
then
I think
travel
we can.
Alpha. I'll travel with you there.
Uh-huh.
Based on your time when you prepare.
Yeah. It would be Monday.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, great. That sounds really, really good.
Okay.
And as I said, I'll confirm Friday that he will have that space already dug up or will dig it up on that Friday.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. Yeah, it's and we'll talk more then. But I've got to prepare myself. I must leave at this time. But have a blessed week, and
Thank you so much.
yeah, and I'll see you on Friday, Monday Alpha, and I'll see you uh this coming Friday, Maryland.
Thanks so much,
So you're
Bill.
gonna go out there Friday with Jim?
Yeah, Jim and I are going to go there on Friday.
Okay, all right, good.
Oh, well, that would be great. Thanks so much. Looking forward to seeing you.
Okay, same here.
All right. Bye, Bill.
Right. So, Peter was trying to log on, but it was problems now, but he's driving, but he said he tried to log on a couple of times and then the host wouldn't let him in and stuff like
Yeah,
that
that
there.
I know
So
what's happening. Can he rejoin or he can't?
I
'Cause
don't know. He's driving. I just told him, sorry,
And,
if you,
and have a good week, Liza. I didn't say.
You too.
All right. Good
Lovely to
see
see you. And the
he had
beautiful
an error that
sky.
said he was removed. See you later,
Yeah,
Bill.
yes, exactly. That's why I know why. So
Yeah, that
I
he was,
I can change that setting. Can he was in the meeting earlier. Do you know
yeah,
what his number is?
I do. But again, he's driving. I'll give you his number. His number is 312-925-4905. All right. So, good seeing you, Marilyn, at the meeting. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go in and I pulled up the the Cook County Arts Advancing Creative Capacity. And this is kind of like what we attended today. About the initiative. Cook County Arts is a pilot initiative of the Cook County Bureau of Economic Development, made possible by a $5 million grant and American Rescue Plan Act funding. With the focus on suburban Cook County Arts provides support for artists and nonprofit arts organizations and seeks to mitigate the lingering negative effects of COVID-19 pandemic and strengthen the suburban arts sector in the long run. Cook County Arts aims to build vibrant, sustainable, and inclusive communities where people want to live, learn, work, and play. And so Hazel Crest, we applied in terms of Arts in the Woods, but by us applying, we did put our face. And even so, sometimes when we don't get the funding, I know that people read our proposal and that panelists, when they see us out, they'll say, oh, I read about you, right? And that happened with Marilyn coming into the meeting today. And she could talk about that experience and the person that that, hey, I saw the work that you guys are doing. So Cook County provided between 50,000 and 250,000 to 14 grantees across the Cook County suburb to support community-led creative placemaking. Now, they're doing a ecosystem assessment. And that's what we attended today. They're having 4 of these data gathering sessions across the landscape of not only the southern part of Cook County, but the north shore region and also the west region of Cook County. And that's what we did today. The first one that they did was there in Matson. So I wanted to look, I went through and looked at the 100 suburban arts organizations that received money in 2024 in Cook County Nonprofit Relief Grant. And so what I did is just took it for myself to go through all 100 of these, and then the ones that were in the southern suburbs, that's what I made as a contact list, so that whenever we are giving, we meaning the Arts in the Woods, are hosting something with like community engagement, I've sent this information out to these folks so that they can start reading about what's going on in Hazel Crest and the art movement in Hazel Crest. There's 2 new programs that we can look at, and they are focused on improving the health of the suburban arts sector. But this is what I'm interested in, is seeing who were the grantees and who received the funding. So these are the groups that were funded. I don't see, these are the ones that went in: Berwyn Development Corporation, Brookfield Theater, Cornerstone Community Development. And I know Cornerstone because I do some consulting work with them. I am part of the Artist Interview Selection Committee. Homewood Science Center, the Oakton College Education Fund, Open Studio Project, and Restoration Ministries, Riverdale Park District, and SAG Youth and Family Services, and SD 89 Education Foundation, and Southland Development Authority. The public mural and literacy through the Arts Enrichment Program. Well, Evanston Artsy is funded. I don't see, I was looking for Hazel Crest. And I don't see, unless Hazel Crest came under one of these other development authorities. Would you know which one, Marilyn?
Let's see. As far as being funded for
I think it's this one. Yeah, that was it. The Southland
Oh,
Development
okay.
Authority, with Hazel Crest, Creative Arts. Sorry, I'm not looking at this in the browser, but on my browser. So yeah, they were funded, and the first phase of the development included the facade updates and interior demolition, and the Cook County Arts Creative Placemaking Grant will support the second phase of the construction. The phase will focus on renovating the Art Center's interior creative makerspace to include indoor units for dance, ceramic, painting, and other activities. This will be paired with an outdoor plaza featuring walkways and a lawn space to host community events such as concerts and farmers market. And other project members are the Village of Hazel Crest Fine Arts Committee. They have a fine arts committee, and Perry State College. This initiative will help address regional disparities in investment and opportunity by focusing cultural, economic, and transportation infrastructure in an under-resourced part of the greater Chicago. Hazel Crest residents, especially those living within walking distance, will benefit from new public gathering spaces, access to arts, and participation in programming designed to reflect and uplift their experiences. So we talked a lot in our breakout session about, of course, I'm going to always toot the horn for the work we're doing with Art in the Woods, with the Hazel Crest Open Lands. And I talked more in our group about creative placemaking, and here our placekeeping, when focused on protecting the distinctiveness of the place, integrates arts and culture and design activities into efforts that strengthen communities and disinvestment neighborhoods. It guides residents' efforts to make social, physical, and economic changes in their communities through arts and culture. Such efforts might include renovating a historic theater, building affordable live workspace for artists, or transforming vacant lots into lively gathering spaces or community exhibition sites. So I don't know what I think they got the full amount of $250,000 with this project. So Marilyn, I'm going to put the link in the chat, and so, kind of read up more about, what they're doing over there.
Okay.
So that's in there. They didn't put, of course, the organizations that weren't funded, but this is an opportunity for us to kind of glean and look through, what was funded. And, I did mention the Hazel Crest Creative Arts Center in dialogue, even though no one was there representing the project, but we were both from Hazel Crest talking about our project and Art in the Woods with Open Lands. But I did think it was necessary to try to make sure we talk about the economic development that's coming, down this corridor.
And I agree with that.
Mhm.
I do agree. I spent some time after you left Alpha.
Mhm.
There was a man in my group. I think I had pointed him out to you. His name was Rod, or is Rod. And we had extensive conversation. Um, he's aware of the art uh, district because he asked me about it when I mentioned about the open lands, and I mentioned that they have it there, but it's just getting started. So as far as us being connected, we're not really connected at this point. He also mentioned about um, Mr. Allen. We talked about Mr. Allen because Mr. Allen's school, music school, will be at this grocery store right on that corner from where the arts center is. And I could understand at that point where what Mr. Allen was talking about because I couldn't at first where he was locating that school. So Mr. Rod, I didn't get his last name, has a wealth of information. He linked me with uh what did she say her name was? I'm just gonna say Malika, which it wasn't. She is a she is a Hispanic person, got her title, which we thought would be important to link out to because we would like to get the Hispanic population involved in what we're doing out in Hazel Crest, as you noticed and was there yourself when I had approached a family and they said they would not, could not come, and so forth and so on. So, by her being Hispanic, we thought that putting a face to this would be helpful. So, she will be calling me soon. Uh, in our systems group, we talked about the how for example in Massachusetts the art is available to help patients and how the insurance companies pay for that. You mentioned something along those lines as well.
Yeah, what
They
I
may
mentioned was that in when Bill it was running a 30,000 square foot pop-up gallery in North Lawndale, that we partnered with and went over and talked with a director of St. Anthony's Hospital. And he had been part of the new communities program list in several, conversations and community breakout sessions. So I always show up, and they go, why are you always showing up to like accountability workshops? I'm always making sure that the arts are at the table in conversation. So he remembered me from the new communities program, and we were in a big group photograph together when they're doling out money and all these sorts of things. And so when we got there, Bill was really kind of nervous, about, pitching this, and having services where we're offering services on Saturday to trauma victims and cancer patients, from the hospital. And so we invited a group of doctors over and support staff over to the gallery, and they didn't think anything like that had existed in North Lawndale, not a gallery of that size. And it was a jewel right there, in the community, in that Sears and Roebuck, where Sears and Roebuck used to have that department store right there. And now across the way, the School of the Art Institute adopt, they're programming out of the other tower. But anyway, we had them come on to do a site visit, and they were so impressed about how Bill had staged, installations of natural plants, and container gardening inside of that space, as well as art in that space, and made it a real calming environment, right? And so on Saturdays, they funded us like $15,000 as a pilot project. But the way they paid for it is the same way they're talking about Massachusetts paid for their client base, and we're saying client base or consumer base because that's how they're listed in the line item at the hospital.
mm-hmm,
And then
mm-hmm.
and the insurance paid for them to come and take workshops or check off classes and stuff like that, and that's how they were justified in paying us as a line item to provide services for the hospital. So it's not a new thing. I think it's just a way that people are more now using it and finding loopholes. But with the cuts in Medicaid, I'm not sure what's going to happen with that conversation.
But that's true. They also had mentioned about the Art Council in the state of Michigan and some others that this funding is available and kind of mandatory. So we talked about those types of things. We talked about uh, develop an art council. And that's interesting because I gather now that I think about it with the art district, that probably is where the development of an art council may be. I'd never heard of it before.
That, as it said, art committee. Didn't it say art committee on that? I think it said art committee. Yeah, it was Village of Hazel Crest Fine Arts Committee.
Okay. Well, they use the term council.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the cultural. We talked about a local visitor bureau, which would probably consist of a cultural trust endowment. We talked about how Cincinnati has an endowment. We also talked about the Illinois Facility Fund, IFF.
Right.
Okay, as well as visiting Chicago Southland, which is now called, for a shorter term, CVB. We talked about also sacred spaces or bustling places, LLCs, partnership agreements, Chicago, I just spelled it, DCAS funding events, such again as the Illinois Art Council. So these were some of the things that we had talked about in terms of funding or looking for funding or contacting some of these entities in regards to funding. And then the questions were, what did we feel, excuse me, what did we feel were some of the things that would be needed to advance us? We all agreed that as we move along in age, we needed to have young volunteers. Our main concerns were two things: the lack of funding or funding that was needed, and also volunteers. And that's also why I want to go back to saying that, and I used her name, Malika. I'm sure that's not it. She's supposedly very good at getting that type of help for any of the groups, is to get involvement with youth and connections. So it was rather interesting as we talked about the issues that we all in that session had a problem with, and that was getting people out, getting involvement with younger people. And we considered, as they talked about an endowment, if that was something that we would need. And one of the administrators that sat in with us mentioned how not being exclusive to just Cook County, but for example, some of Will County, uh, as a larger group, that maybe an endowment would be good, that we could all take advantage of and all connect with, and to have us partner with each other. And he mentioned that in other areas of counties that that was a successful thing. So we're just hoping to go further with this and finding ways to get funding, to get volunteers, and even in maybe getting some volunteers in the youth volunteers, because they always prefer to have money. Excuse me, that's one of the first things they ask, does it pay? And we could understand that because we talked about having pensions for ourselves and what would the young people have. So it was quite interesting. It's real interesting. I connected with people that lived in the area, not necessarily Hazel Crest, but did not know that the Arboretum was there. I also had spoken with a woman that called me. I had met her at another uh, uh, session, and she called me to invite me out to Riverdale on that same day we had our Oaks and Folks event, to help participate there. And I told her we also had an event out there called Oaks and Folks Gala, and I described it. So we're going to connect more. She had
She was in
wished she
my
could.
group, young lady.
I'm
She was in
sorry.
my group. She was in my group.
Oh, okay. She was in
Uh-huh.
your group. Her
She's
name
with
is
the
Mary.
yeah, she's with the Riverdale Park District.
That's
Uh,
right, Mary.
but
I had,
her she is a consultant, but she also lives in Pilsen. You know, so
oh,
she has that contrast between inner city, urban, and
oh,
the art and culture that is in Pilsen everywhere.
okay,
And then going
okay.
out to Riverdale where it's a cultural desert.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And she kind of described the demographic area of Riverdale in terms of how I think Hazel Crest is a little more like walkable and little more concentrated, and not the houses are not spread out so far out in those subdivisions, least where I travel in. And she was saying in Riverdale, the houses and everything are spread out, and like trying to catch public transportation is an issue, for folks commuting out there, and how to get them engaged when there's little resources to get people around if they don't have cars. And she talked a lot about, how do they get the community to come over to the programming that they're trying to do in the park district. And so she's grappling with that, doing a lot of social media, trying to get their attention. um, in our group with her in it, we talked about a succession plan, because look at us, all of us are at that point in the cultural work that we do as cultural bearers, that all of us should have a succession plan for who takes over our
yes,
projects once we
yes,
kind of grandmother out of them, our
yes,
grandfather out of them, and bringing a young population in. And I really like your all new staff person, but he's only there for so many hours. If you can grab
yes,
people that are coming out of colleges and universities, and their background and degree work is in horticultural, you know, what is it, horticultural science, and that work, then you got a younger face out there, kind of, that will probably grab more of the high schoolers that are interested in doing this work. And if they're not interested, they have a way of bringing them into this work. And I had suggested that all of those folks that are on this beautification commission should take workshops or horticultural 101, master gardening 101, you know what I mean? So that they can get some of the information that and glean some of the information they're going to need besides just wanting to sit on a committee.
And I agree with that. I would like to bring that again to Mr. Sawyer uh, to release funds for us to do that, um, so that we can, when these opportunities come up, we can jump on them right away and not have to seek him and seek the waiting period and whatever has to happen before, excuse me, is confirmed. And at that time, some of these workshops they fill up fast. So I thought that would be perfect. That's what's needed to, I feel, get the commissioners' um, uh, attention and to give them uh, a broader sense of what can be involved with beautification, and also to enlighten them more and maybe spark a sense of interest, more of a sense of interest. So it's very necessary, I think, if they're going to continue to be on the commission, because of course they said they weren't going to get their hands dirty, but you can get your hands dirty in a good way. There's other ways to get your hands dirty in case they
Right.
didn't think or know. But this is a good way of getting your hands dirty and seeing the fruit of your labor.
Right. And I mentioned that you all, you had been out there for at least 15 years. And, Carl, been out there, 15 plus years working the land. And you all are the place keepers, of this land and this project. Um, but you got to find other ways to get other younger people engaged, and continuing, um, this legacy building that you're doing out there um,
Right.
with this project. I got a chance to visit Christine's workshop this past Saturday.
Oh, you
Uh-huh,
did.
I did. I have some pictures I'll share in a moment. But what I liked and was most impressed beyond looking at the history of that area where she was able to build her installation, you know, um, and that to know that the historical significance of this area on the Calumet, and how it intersects with several um, historical organizations that are, taking you down the waterways, in your canoes. I don't think they're boats. I think that they're those canoes that kind of, take you on this boat ride and point out historical parts of that river. But her installation sits right there in the loading dock, and they in Park Forest Preserve has invested, and I haven't went and did the research to say how much they've invested, but they've invested millions of dollars for just the restoration of that area and the loading boat launch area. Beautiful. We just went out there on a beautiful day. And again, my what I was most impressed about, other than the project itself, was that they had a group of 12 ambassadors. And these ambassadors are youth from the neighborhood, and that neighborhood is an historic African American neighborhood where after the World War II, and veterans were coming back to the city, and they needed housing. And this is an area that was built up by the government and by for affordable housing, and as well as where veterans could build their housing in those subdivisions out there. And so when I started reading about it and reading about the charge that was taken to preserve that area, yes, it was an area designed for Black families and for the Black community. But it also became a donut. And I didn't understand, what are you talking, a donut? So, and donut is where they had built all of these plants, steel plants and all of these, and that were poisoning the river, and they
That's
still have
right.
mutations they fish out there, but they throw the fish back because it's poisonous. The fish are muted, have mutations, like two heads, or stuff is going on with them that they're not edible. But they created this real serene area, for fishermen, boaters to go out and, kind of be out there, but you can't. So what does that mean? What does that do to the population of the housing and the people that live in that around that area? If you created this environmental donut that's environmental poison around the neighborhood. And so there was forgive me, I just in-depth research I didn't do. I just read, what they have these beautiful boards out there that I was reading, the information on, and it would take one person to advocate and move community for change and to get those industries accountable for how they're poisoning the people and the land around, this whole housing division, you know. So again, I saw the outreach. I saw youth ambassadors that were coming over to Christine's project from that neighborhood that I just kind of delve a little bit into the history of them. A lot of project housing kind of thing, built up out there. They weren't like, I know the difference between project housing and regular affordable housing developments. And so these are definitely from the brick, there weren't like the ones built on State Street, the sky rises, but these are other,
You're talking about Altgeld Gardens?
yes,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, for lack of not pronouncing the name of it correctly, I'm glad you pronounced the name of it. But those youth, they were teenagers. They came and they've been the ambassadors. And that's how the Forest Preserve, directors out there have working and engaging community. Because my thought and Christine's thought was, can you bring some people? Because she wanted her workshop to really happen. You know what I mean? And so maybe like 4 outside folks like myself, my granddaughter, and another artist, and her husband, Roman, did the sculpture, sandstone sculpture for her to help with her installation. And the Amani Center was another another community-based organization, CBO, that worked with Christine on this project as well. And their director, our program manager, was out there. But again, the youth that came around, and they had their youth ambassador T-shirts on, and they were,
Oh.
stewards of the land. They even we painted logs, like they were cut as discs, so that
Oh,
they're part
wow.
of the trail. And so they added to the discs that are already there. They go into the trail that needs, manicuring and updating and weeds cut back. But that's not our job. That's not the artist's job. That's the Forest Preserve job, is to maintain the trail. And then they took the students or the youth ambassadors out on a nature walk to collect seeds from pollinators that are along the
Oh.
trail so they can have them for next year's planting and stuff like that. And so it was a good afternoon, but it just showed me a lot of what's going on back there, because I'm always thinking about what populations do the forest preserves in that area, do the outreach for? Who comes? Kids walked. I saw them walking over there, and I didn't see anyone being dropped off. I saw kids coming up on scooters. That they make their way there as a place, of engagement.
Well, I'm glad to know that they are doing a lot over in that area now. Uh, that area was a high concentrated cancer area because of the industry over there. I'm glad for Boobie Woods when I think about it, because those trees provide some type of cleaner air than what would have been if it wasn't there. But I'm also glad to find that those children, those young people came out and want to be stewards of the land. And of course, that's what our aim is to eventually get. I think we talked about T-shirts, but we talked about them among the volunteers that are not commissioners that come. But if we could be more creative and have more funding to have t-shirts for those to come out and volunteer. Maybe the young people would be more uh, prideful to have t-shirts to put on to come out there. So that's food for thought.
Yeah, especially when where you have a liaison that is coming from the school district, and she's a liaison on your board of trustees, and they're saying that they want to do more, and it's like, well, then they were like, well, there weren't that many kids that were at, there weren't that many kids at our Oaks and Folks. And I'm like, well, we really didn't program for kids to be out there. But there was a few, and you had to give them something to do when they come, or they'll just, run rapid, and
Well,
some
that's
adults.
true. The one little guy that is seen in the photo of helping to plant that tree, I was just wondering, did he come out with his mother, or
He came
was
out with his
that
mother.
he just happened to come out with his mother?
He came out with his mother. I saw them together when they
Oh,
got
that
out of the
was
car.
perfect. That
Hmm.
was perfect. That was a perfect photo op showing a youth being involved in that.
Here's some images of
Oh,
Christine
wow.
and the workshop that we did, and all of
Oh,
these
that's
and
nice.
she wants to redo this similar workshop in Hazel Crest, and she was
Great.
asking, and I know we have to do a lot of community engagement. um she's already spent like her money that was given to her for you know um for her installation. But we have to talk about community engagement and paying for her workshop. And if that's something that could
Okay.
happen,
Yep.
in the spring, or the next piece, of what she's doing. But again, like I said, here's these teenagers that showed up. These are the friends of the preserve, and they're the ambassadors. But this new pavilion that they just built out there is just amazing. I didn't think I didn't step back and take a photograph. Um, but this here is part of her installation. Here she has sandstone, and then these other ceramic or wooden tiles that are attached to her sculpture. They were done by other artists as part of the there's another art group. I can't think of the name of them, but I've heard about them before, but they're in the South Shore area.
Oh, that looked great.
Hmm.
And
And
that's
see,
that's really a great idea. I would love for Christine to come out and do that in our area. It would be an extension. I mean, when we advertise it, the artist that created this art installation here, she's coming out to work with the community. That would be great. Great publicity.
she's just kind of explaining here the different elements in her installation and what the students are going to do. See how she did this one right here, similar to,
Oh my
it's nowhere
goodness.
similar to the um, hazelnut arch, but yeah, she just talking about where we're going to have to walk to put those doils.
And she and I worked on this to
Oh,
make it
that's
come
great.
to life. So the artists the four painters that use the exact same paints that you did, they are part of Trinity United Church. Church of Christ. That's right.
Mhm.
And they have.
And they talked today about churches, cultural spaces,
Right.
and the
So
church was
three
part
of
of
them
the
had that
project
connection
here
to
too.
Trinity United Church of Christ, which has a connection to Monty Village. So, all right. So let's walk. And now.
Okay, stop.
And these are the park forest reserve workers.
All right. Let's go. And now we have a nice.
But this
Oh, that looks
whole area
nice.
is her gathering space area that we, walked over to from the pavilion.
So now, Alpha, those discs that I see in the ground,
Hmm.
is that what she was doing?
they were a continuation of what she's doing. And look at this view. Oh
It's
my
beautiful.
God. It was just beautiful.
Wow.
It was a beautiful Saturday morning. And
Wow.
all of
That
this
is
is right there
beautiful.
where you're saying that there was an environmental lawsuit against the companies that were poisoning this river. And
Yes.
they still can't drink out of this. Well,
Yes.
yeah. And they can't eat the fish that they find in it. But it's just
Yes.
how awesome,
But
beautiful.
that water looks 100 times better. And I haven't seen it from that view, but I remember as a small girl going through a portion where that industry over there was poisoning the water, how it had a smell to it. I know it was not gleaming like that at all.
But it was
That
this,
is beautiful.
yeah, this was, and so just like you were saying, I got up and went and, these projects that are in nature, and then to look again and look at the, you know, here is this whole area that there's some kind of stage right there.
Mm-hmm.
Here, this is the loading, the boats, where they launch right here area. But all of this is sitting areas for people to sit and just gaze at the beauty around them here.
Wow.
Mhm. And
Uh,
so of course, I'm still investigating and looking for stuff for my project. But I like the way these were like these metal were posts were into the ground where they're not as evasive as that big pad, and putting this kind of signage or working on the panel that that Bill is supposed to, install in the spring, or I'm supposed to install in the spring. But these are easier ways to kind of put our projects in the ground, except for that whole pad, which is take out, so
mm-hmm.
many feet of land. So I was kind of looking at that, looking at the way they put those big poles in the ground. Christine said that they were like 5 feet deep into the ground, those
Mm-hmm.
posts,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but the machinery they brought out there just to dig that round hole was $5,000 just to drill those two holes out, so, but this is what I was talking about in terms of, the signage they have out there and talking about the Black history along the trail area.
Wow.
Mhm.
That
And of
is
course, I did
simply
the back
beautiful.
of it because I wanted to see if they had anything in the back of it, so that when we do our installs out there, I'm just looking for other areas. The back of my chair, it could be painted or left solid or something. You know what I mean? That Peter and I are trying to design. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's kind of like, I was just kind of sharing that with you, a few pictures that I took
That's
out there
nice.
on Saturday. And more than anything, you saw the age group of the ambassadors that were.
Mm-hmm. So thanks for sharing. That
Yeah.
uh, is really quite inspirational.
So I don't know, that's something that could be proposed to the liaison, and let her do her work. Because, earlier on, you were saying that the schools that have come out to the Hazel Crest open land, that, that I haven't seen any of them since we've been coming back out there this year. And how do we get them signed up? How do we, petition? Do they have the science class that would do this? Not only the art department, but maybe there's other students that are involved. I'm working with the University of California State University and their art department and African American Studies department, and they have interns they're sending over to the museum that I'm doing research and consulting work for, and they take a semester of curatorial study, to be there placed at the museum. And I think we could counter that and look, because they have this relationship with Perry State College, and look at, people that are in the environmental science department to see, that's one outreach, to try to get them more involved. I can only look at the art part of it. That's not my only interest, but getting the art part and engagement with community, but then how does that transcend over to the place being Well, you guys need them all the time. Are they semester to semester? You know, I know that the Illinois Arts Council has funding for youth in the summer. Cook County offers summer youth employment. And if we're on top of that, by April, they're taking applications and having so many slots that they would be placed out there for so many hours to work, if that's a direction you want to go with getting the extra help and then kind of recruit from the high schools.
Having taken a workshop where we talk about getting the youth involved, we agreed, I think I kind of agreed with their theory that once the kids get in high school, they want to get paid. They want to be paid.
Right.
So the idea is to get them at the ground root where they are young in elementary school, first graders, second graders. One of the um, one of the partners that was in the group that I was in has is involved in orchestra, and they talked about how getting those kids started early, very early. By the time that they reach high school, they're well vested in what they do, uh, and go on from there to make a career out of it, or at least close to that. I find that to be probably the same when we talk about the open lands. We've got to get them young. They have to be really interested. We've got to get them interested in what nature can provide and can do, and that will carry with them. And I have to agree because starting out as a young Girl Scout, and even before I was Girl Scout age, that's what I did. Got involved in going to camp and so forth, and just amazed how that has not left me. And that's what has helped to inspire me working out in the open lands. So, because once they get up some age, once again, here comes that, are we going to get paid?
Right.
Which made me think we did, when I first started working with open lands, as a matter of fact, I worked a summer program that those kids did get paid. But unfortunately, it didn't continue from summer to summer to summer. So, of course, they fell off. So, that is interesting of how we need to get them started and even to be funded. And at that time, the village did fund that young group money. And it wasn't even a stipend, it was actually, I believe it was a paycheck. But they didn't keep it going year after year after year. That would have been a great legacy start for us, I believe. So, these are things that this session that we went to, I would really like to have that presented at our meeting on Monday,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because we do need to look at investment in the community and investment in what we're doing and passing it on to the next generations. We need to also look at funding. When I think that they fund a STEM program every summer, then this could be something that could be funded as well. So there are opportunities, and even what Christine has done with the youth coming out there, that could be something that can occur uh, in the coming year. I'd like to do something in the fall uh, as the leaves are falling. Just anything to get the kids out.
The fall of this
Fall
year,
of this
fall.
year.
Okay, yeah, Bill was going to do that, and I mentioned his workshop, but his time constraints, he's looking at the spring and building it in so that the final workshop would be on the 25th of April during the Arbor Day
Okay.
installations and
Okay.
all of that. That there's two Arbor Day events, of course, but then there's also two installations, the soundscape and then also the seating element is supposed to be installed on April 25th. So he's saying that April 4th, 11th, and 18th, he was gonna do those digital photography workshops.
Okay.
But that's a lot, and basically, in nature, we only have, like you guys have November coming up, you have December when you're doing the tree lighting. And then we are kind of dormant, from January, until April. For us, we'd probably be out there like, what is it, March, starting to get back into things and getting ready for April's engagement. So something like what Christine is proposing could happen in April, or it could happen, this fall with, but
I
that's
would
kind of
like
pushing
you.
it to.
Well, yeah, it is, especially if we're talking about the school kids. And it's
Mhm.
unfortunate because, as you mentioned, and I know who you mentioned when you talk about one of the, she's not really a trustee, but um, liaison to to from the open lands to the trustees. I did reach out to her. Um, probably where are we? October. I probably reached out to her sometime in early September, the end of August, somewhere after we did the hazelnut, because she is who I connected with before with the outdoor classroom. She said, we got to do this quickly. She said, because by November, those teachers have their agendas already scheduled. Well, I reached out by email. I haven't gotten a response. And of course, we had our events going on, Oaks and folks and so forth. So I'm thinking, like Carl did, we probably have to independently go to the schools, talk with the principal, and set something up because that liaison has double duty,
Right.
double dipping, however you would describe it. And I would imagine just could not respond to that email in a timely fashion to get things going because of her involvement with the village.
Now, I did send stuff, maybe not to the targeted schools because I don't know who the art teachers are, and I didn't know who the point people that Carl been meeting with to send them stuff about what's going on in Arts and Woods. And so we're still constructing your contact list. And that contact list I took from, again, all of the organizations that were funded art projects in the south suburbs that were close around um, the Hazel Crest community, that could be feeders or shared information, like all the folks we met today. But
Yeah,
yeah, I just need people to be forthcoming with contact information so I can put them on the list. So when we're starting to do that outreach, I sent you all the list. I'm going to add May Brandon, and she's the president of the Tallgrass Arts Association,
right.
which she said she was on that list, but I probably sent it to the person that was the grant writer, on that mailing list. So now that, I have, some updated contact information. And I'm sure that the Arts Alliance is going to share the list of folks that showed up, you know, um, for these sector meetings that they're sessions that they're hosting. So we can get a hold of that list and make that part of our outreach as well. So, well, it's 3 o'clock. You want to add some more to the conversation, or we're kind of wiped out for for today? And
I have I have wound down.
you're wound down. I just like, driving, rushing back here, like trying to get online and keep the discussion going. I was really like, I'm glad we got a chance to go out there. I did put the website of the people that were the facilitators, and I did get Legacy Consulting Group card and their founder and principal, so I can look up the work that they are doing with the Arts Alliance. And I did meet with Megan when we were putting the application forward with Hazel Crest, that they know the work that we're doing because they read our proposals. And she's the one that say, hey, Alpha, this is not, you guys can't put an application in from the city using a city address. You need to use an address in Hazel Crest, right?
Okay.
And then we still need to look at the church, the United Methodist Church, and their engagement, because they did
Yes.
say, hey, we want to support you all,
Yes.
gave a support letter and tried to help us get that application through. And so there's 2 other grants that I saw in Cook County that we need to start looking at, so we can try to get more money to match what I'm always looking at that matching dollar and money that
That's all right.
Hazel Crest Board of Trustees allocated for the arts program pilot so far.
Okay.
All right. That's all I got for today. Thank you
Okay.
for joining us
And I
on
want to
Pop-Up
thank
Research
you.
Station.
I want to thank you for reaching out to me because I had just gotten in and I was packing up my bag to go back out. And I thought, let me contact my client. So we've had to rearrange our time. And when you sent me that text, are you logging on? I said, oh, I can do this.
Okay,
So
good.
glad to be able to
Yeah.
do this. It took me a moment because I had to search through the emails to get that this is not hopeless, which I never thought it would be, but it can be a slow process, but it can be done and it will be done and we will succeed.
Again, thank you, uh, Marilyn, and we'll see you on Monday at
Will
the
do.
Beautification Open Land Commission meeting. And where is it going to be held?
It's going to be at the fire station, our
Okay,
usual spot, as far as I know at this time.
okay. And I'll catch up with you later.
Okay,
All
thanks,
right.
Alpha.
All
Enjoy
right,
the
you're
rest of your
welcome.
day. Bye
All right.
bye.
Bye.